There is a quiet friction in arriving at a new workplace, the strange sensation of stepping into an established ecosystem where every unspoken rule is already second nature to everyone but you.
It is essentially a performance of competence while operating in a fog of uncertainty, isn't it? Most people focus entirely on demonstrating value immediately. Yet the most tactical choice on day one might actually be quiet observation.
Welcome back to the podcast. Tonight, we are examining the psychological and linguistic nuances of your first day at a new job, a transition that tests not just our professional skills, but our ability to navigate ambiguity, establish boundaries, and absorb complex social dynamics without losing our footing. If you are preparing for a major career move or refining your high-level communication skills, this episode is designed to help you articulate those critical, high-stakes transitions with precision and composure.
When you cross that physical or virtual threshold on day one, the immediate instinct is often hypervigilance. You are trying to decipher the internal hierarchy, master new systems, and project absolute self-assurance all at once. The street noise outside settles, the office dims, and you are left sitting with the reality of being an outsider looking in.
That feeling of being an outsider can easily trigger overcompensation. I remember starting a role years ago where I felt compelled to contribute to every single discussion on my very first afternoon. In hindsight, I was treating my presence as something that needed immediate justification, rather than allowing myself the grace to observe the room first.
That is a common trap, Laura. There is a distinction worth making between active presence and eager overreach. When you step into a new environment, attempting to solve problems before you understand the underlying context often signals insecurity rather than authority.
Precisely. The issue is far more nuanced than simply making a good first impression. It is about reading the room, discerning the explicit expectations from the implicit culture, and strategically pacing your integration.
Let us challenge the conventional wisdom for a moment. Career advice frequently urges new hires to hit the ground running, but running in an unfamiliar direction rarely yields meaningful progress. I would argue that a thoughtful professional treats the first day not as a sprint, but as a diagnostic audit.
I agree with the premise, Thomas, though we should not overlook the fact that stakeholders often expect visible engagement early on. Silence can be misconstrued as indifference if it is not accompanied by targeted inquiry. So, how do we balance observation with active engagement?
By shifting from assertion to inquiry, instead of offering unsolicited solutions, an astute professional asks questions that illuminate historical context. For example, asking why a system was structured in a particular way yields far more strategic value than immediately suggesting an alternative.
That brings us to a fundamental distinction that every advanced communicator should master in these settings: the difference between adaptability and conformity. Adaptability requires adjusting your approach to fit new operational reality without losing your core professional identity. Conformity, on the other hand, is the uncritical adoption of existing habits simply to avoid friction.
That is a crucial line to draw. Here is our first golden sentence.
A new role demands that we balance professional humility with strategic curiosity, observing the culture before attempting to reshape it.
There is an important idea inside that sentence. It reminds us that credibility is accumulated through understanding, not asserted through volume.
Let us pause to shadow this insight together, focusing on natural phrasing and cadence. Listen carefully to the full sentence first. A new role demands that we balance professional humility with strategic curiosity, observing the culture before attempting to reshape it. Now, let us break it into natural thought groups. Repeat after me. A new role demands that we balance professional humility with strategic curiosity, observing the culture before attempting to reshape it.
Notice how the stress rests gently on humility, curiosity, and reshape. When you deliver this in a professional discussion, a steady, deliberate pace projects composure and intellectual maturity. Let us rebuild the complete sentence together. A new role demands that we balance professional humility with strategic curiosity, observing the culture before attempting to reshape it. Excellent.
Consider a concrete scenario. Imagine a senior project manager, Sarah, joining an established technology firm. On her first day, she sits in a cross-functional strategy meeting. The team is debating a delayed release schedule using internal jargon and referencing past structural conflicts. A reactive professional might jump in with a standardized project management framework to demonstrate capability.
Whereas a nuanced approach would involve Sarah taking comprehensive notes, mapping the interpersonal dynamics, and asking a calibrated question like, to help me align with the team's historical priorities, what was the primary constraint during the previous phase? That single question signals competence, respects past effort, and gathers critical intelligence.
Exactly. Let us unpack some of the sophisticated vocabulary and expressions we have used so far. Notice the phrase hypervigilance. In a professional context, this refers to a heightened state of awareness, often driven by the anxiety of a new environment.
Then we have overcompensation, the act of exaggerating a behavior to conceal a perceived weakness or insecurity. On a first day, overcompensation often manifests as excessive talking or prematurely offering solutions.
We also use the collocation implicit culture. Unlike formal policies, implicit culture consists of the unwritten norms, subtle expectations, and informal communication channels that dictate how work actually gets done.
Another valuable phrase is to project composure. This implies consciously displaying calm, controlled authority, particularly when navigating unfamiliar or ambiguous circumstances.
And consider the term unsolicited solutions. Offering advice that was not requested can inadvertently communicate a lack of respect for the team's existing expertise.
Moving beyond the initial orientation, we must examine the deeper implications of how we establish professional boundaries from day one. The habits you permit on your first day often become the expectations you are held to 6 months later.
That is where many professionals experience long-term friction. In an effort to appear helpful, they accept ambiguous responsibilities or agree to unsustainable communication patterns immediately, setting a precedent that is exceptionally difficult to reverse.
Indeed, there is a delicate balance between being cooperative and being boundaryless. Asserting boundaries diplomatically on day one requires sophisticated hedging and precise phrasing. Here is our second golden sentence. Sustainable professional credibility relies on setting clear boundaries early, ensuring that responsiveness never comes at the expense of strategic clarity.
That gives us something practical to carry forward. It reframes boundary setting not as reluctance, but as a commitment to high-quality work.
Let us practice shadowing this second sentence. Listen to the complete cadence first. Sustainable professional credibility relies on setting clear boundaries early, ensuring that responsiveness never comes at the expense of strategic clarity. Now, break it down with me into natural thought groups. Sustainable professional credibility relies on setting clear boundaries early, ensuring that responsiveness never comes at the expense of strategic clarity.
Pay attention to the contrastive emphasis between responsiveness and strategic clarity. Emphasizing strategic clarity reinforces that your boundaries serve the organization's broader goals. Let us combine the phrases into one fluid statement. Sustainable professional credibility relies on setting clear boundaries early, ensuring that responsiveness never comes at the expense of strategic clarity.
To help you internalize these concepts, let us explore how you might articulate your perspective during a real-world orientation or debrief. I'm going to pose a few reflective prompts. Try formulating your response using the language we are developing tonight.
First prompt: how do you handle the overwhelming volume of information presented on your first day without appearing disengaged?
Here is a Model C1C2 response. Rather than attempting to absorb every operational detail immediately, I prioritize mapping key stakeholder relationships and core objectives, allowing me to contextualize technical documentation over time.
Second prompt: what is your strategy when invited to give immediate feedback on a process you haven't fully observed?
Consider this response pattern. I prefer to defer definitive feedback until I have observed the process across a full operational cycle, ensuring my recommendations account for underlying variables.
Third prompt: how do you diplomatically clarify your role boundaries when handed tasks outside your initial agreement on day one?
A balanced model response would be, I am eager to support the team's immediate priorities. However, I want to ensure my time is strategically allocated toward the core objectives we outlined for this onboarding phase.
Notice how these responses employ diplomatic qualification, using phrases like, I prefer to defer, account for underlying variables, and strategically allocated. This level of precision protects your professional standing while maintaining absolute diplomatic courtesy.
How can listeners practically apply these principles in a meeting or introduction tomorrow?
When introducing yourself to new colleagues, avoid simply listing your past titles. Instead, frame your experience around the value you bring to current challenges. You might say, my background is primarily in organizational transitions, so my focus over the next few days is simply to understand your current workflow and identify where I can offer the most effective support.
That statement immediately positions you as a collaborative asset rather than a competitive presence. It demonstrates strategic restraint, a quality that senior leadership consistently values.
As we bring tonight's discussion together, it becomes evident that navigating a first day successfully is not about mastering every software tool or memorizing the organizational chart by 5 o'clock.
It is about mastering the psychological transition. We agree that visible enthusiasm has its place, but it must be tempered with patient observation. The most effective professionals view the first day as an exercise in information gathering, emotional regulation, and diplomatic positioning.
We have distinguished between active presence and eager overreach, explored the vital difference between adaptability and conformity, and established that early boundaries lay the foundation for long-term professional integrity.
As the night deepens and you prepare for whatever professional transitions lie ahead, consider this question. Are you entering your next opportunity driven by the urge to prove your value instantly, or with the confidence to understand the terrain first?
Thank you for spending this reflective time with us late into the evening. Your dedication to refining not just your vocabulary, but the subtlety and impact of your professional voice is commendable.
Until next time, approach your transitions with composure, speak with precision, and give yourself space to observe before you act. Good night.